Hey everybody, welcome back to Listography. Jason, Joe, and Krams are here, coming at you today with a record review. We are discussing the new Steve Earle and the Dukes album called JT. Kind of a heavy record, tough to talk about in some ways. Steve Earle covering songs from his late son, Justin Townes Earle, who died pretty recently in August. So kind of a quick turnaround putting this out. Justin Townes Earle, named after Townes Van Zandt, Steve Earle's son, singer-songwriter, has got a bunch of albums of his own. January 4th, when this album was released, would have been Justin's 39th birthday. He died of an accidental overdose. So pretty sad stuff, but thoughts on the record, guys?
Right off the bat, it wasn't what I was expecting. I thought it would be really somber, but it really kind of celebrates his life, and it doesn't get super emotional, I think, till the end. That was my first take. I was ready for something really heavy, but it was a little brighter and a little more celebratory, a little more just like paying homage, maybe just as a musician, and then at the end, the heartstrings really hit you. That was my first take.
I don't think I've ever listened to a Justin Townes Earle album all the way through. So all of these songs were pretty much new to me. Coming into it, I didn't know what to expect, if it was going to be sort of, like Krams was saying, somber, sort of funereal, for lack of a better word. But it really is sort of a celebration, and I think it's done very lovingly, and you don't sense... I was looking for sort of that heartstring tugging. That's what I was expecting, but you don't get that till the end. And I think it works really well as an album. I think the songs are all good, and I really like all the arrangements. So I really enjoyed this album. I had no idea what to expect going in. My knowledge of Steve Earle is Copperhead Road and a couple other songs. So it's sort of just a completely new experience. So I don't know. I know, Jason, you have a little more experience with these two artists.
Maybe, but not a ton. I've probably listened to all of Justin Townes Earle's albums, but I don't know if I've listened to any of them twice. Kind of one of those artists that I follow, and I listen to his stuff every time he puts out a record, and it's never really hooked me in to becoming a fan. Someone burned me some Steve Earle stuff back in the day that I listened to a few times, but same thing. I don't dislike it, but never really hooked me in to listening to it regularly. But after listening to this record, I went back and listened to all the Justin Townes Earle original tracks. And I gotta say, I think I like in 100% of the tracks, the Justin Townes Earle version better. And I'm not crazy about the way this record sounds. It's a little bit muddy, the mix. It's a little dark sounding. I don't know. Yeah, I would take the Justin Townes Earle tracks over these tracks.
Joe, you listened to these tracks by Justin, right?
I did. After I heard them on this album, I went back and listened, and I have the exact opposite opinion as Jason. I love the arrangements here. I can't speak to the production as well as Jason, but I thought all the stuff I wanted to hear, the sort of Americana, it's very cosmic American, Graham Parsons, Byrds style instrumentation, which I love. And I really like, sometimes that style of music doesn't have the best songwriters attached to it always. So I'm usually when I'm listening to an album of that style, I'm usually wanting more. But I think the songs themselves by Justin Townes Earle are really good. And I think Steve Earle and the Dukes, who are great, sort of elevate that here to almost a perfect record for me. I really, really liked it, and I really liked everything on this album.
I didn't listen to the Justin songs, so the only impression I've got of the songwriting is by what you hear on JT. I don't know a lot of Steve Earle, probably 7 or 8 hits, never did an album straight through, because those 7 or 8 hits, like Feel All Right, Copperhead Road, Guitar Town, I don't like it all. Kind of sounds just like wannabe rustic Americana. Not wannabe, maybe it is, but it's just not my cup of tea. However, I did like this album a good bit. There it is, a good bit. But I don't agree with Jason about the production. I think production's fine. It is what it is. It can't be that peculiar to what the roots of the songwriting is. And it's kind of a gritty, down in the dirt. It feels like a rustic, heartland America band that is packing up and getting on the back of their pickup truck after they do their set. And that's the way I get. The one problem I have sonically is, and I don't know if that's just the way that the Justin Townes versions play into Steve's register as a singer, but some of the songs and some of the maneuvering he does with his vocals don't really do it. Like on Maria, he tries to get really kind of cool and rocking and kind of thins out his voice and gets a little nasally and tries to do some attitude, and it doesn't work. But I think that rest of that song is really good. And like Joe was saying, maybe has the best usage of the full band coming in with piano and stuff like that later. When I first listened to this, I was a little bored with it. The second listen, I elevated it a good bit. And then after my second listen, I had a handful of tracks just stuck in my head that I've now, put on a nice January 2021 playlist. So that alone, there's no real songs that kill it for me. The songs like Turn On My Lights, Saint of Lost Causes, and especially the closer, Last Words, which is the original track. And it's kind of him, the whole album is him kind of holding hands with his son. And at the end, he lets go. And then it's really powerful, really well-written song. Simple and soulful and honest. That song really stuck with me. So first listen, it was like a 2-star album for me, just kind of like a, kind of lousy, but it's a good album. 3 out of 5 stars for me.
Yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying about the vocals. There's a couple times he sort of stretches beyond what he's capable of. But that didn't take away from my enjoyment of the album. I really like Maria a lot. I think Champagne Corolla, the original Justin Townes Earle, has sort of this weird cadence that doesn't quite match. And I think I think the song is great, and I really like the way Steve Earle sort of just sings it a little straighter, a little more 50s, 60s. I think my biggest problem with Justin Townes Earle stuff was sounded a little too indie, a little too sort of its time. And this to me sounds like, late 60s. Definitely get some, Wild Horses, Rolling Stones covering Graham Parsons on Far Away in Another Town. And I like Lone Pine Hill. Kind of turns from a folksy sort of protest song into, almost Copperhead Road kind of fist pumping protest song. So I really like the album. I give it 4 stars. If it had come out last year, it would be in my top 10. So I really, really enjoyed it.
For stars, I think I'm right at a 2.5 on this one. Didn't leave a ton of an impression with me, either positive or negative. It just kind of sat there. But I think it maybe did encourage me to revisit some Justin Townes Earle stuff, even beyond the tracks that were covered on this record. So if the goal is to direct people to Justin's catalog and shine a light on his music, then mission accomplished in that sense. But I'm more likely to go back to that stuff than to this record.
Yeah, and I listened to Guy almost all the way through the 2019 Steve Earle album, and I wasn't crazy about it. But this does make me want to visit some of Justin Townes Earle stuff. So yeah, but even without the framework of it being a goodbye letter to his son and all of that, standing on its own, I thought it was a good listen. So I'm closer to Joe on this. It's an album that I'd give a good thumbs up to. It's a good album.
Everybody can let us know down in the comments what you thought of this record if you've heard it. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications, and check down in the description for links to our social media accounts. We're posting at least 4 videos every week, so lots of stuff coming your way. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you in the next one.